everyone. So this is Emilia Bachelier with Emilia Bachelier Art. And first off, I just want to apologize for how blurry the screen is. I don't know what was going on, if I accidentally switched it to manual focus instead of my autofocus. I don't know, but I did speed this part up so that we could get to the clear picture more quickly. This is just the part of the process where I cover up the canvas. And I know I mentioned this later on in the video, one of the clips between painting sessions, that this canvas, actually, I got it at a yard sale. It was a commercial artwork, so basically like someone's art printed on. But the canvas is good. I inspected everything, the structural elements of it, the wood in the back, everything. The actual canvas is stretched like normal, like it should be. It's tight. There's no dents other than what the texture creates, but there were some little dents and scratches in the frame that was like attached to this piece. I took that off though because I thought it looked ugly. I didn't think I could fix it. It was just too cracked. But everything else, like once I removed that, the canvas is really nice and intact. Has a good weight to it. Here it looks like I'm finished with that first painting session. And I know it was a while before I picked up again. I know it was a few weeks even, maybe, because at the beginning I didn't exactly consider this for a collection. I just was in the mood to paint large. Here I am dancing and jamming out to I don't know what. But yeah, that's what I do. I listen to music. I listen to podcasts. I sometimes do art chats with some friends and we hang out and paint together. Yeah, that is basically what I do. I try to keep my mind occupied while I'm painting. And so it is just this very natural process and it just starts flowing out of me. It's very intuitive. So going into, this is the second paint session, which, like I said, I hadn't decided on doing a collection at this point. Later, of course, I decided to include it in the collection because it's so colorful. I came up with a summer collection that is just reflective of my really happy feelings towards summer. Might also have something to do with the fact that I just moved to Utah from Arizona and the weather is a little cooler here and it took forever for summer to come. It took forever for spring to come. Like I was really like, okay, this just still feels like winter to me. But anyway, these colors are just, I don't know, it's like my signature to work with really bright, pretty colors. And I think it's just this thing inside of me that I have to create and that I have for these really pretty colors, bright colors that almost look neon, but not quite. I do like working with neon, but in this particular case, I didn't. I wanted everything to be on the same scale of brightness. Sometimes I feel like, unless I'm going to use neons in a more concentrated way, I guess if I'm going to create a painting that has a lot of neons, I'm going to kind of keep it consistent throughout, and work with neons. But if it's something like this, I don't want the neon to like draw away from the other colors, because neon has a tendency to make other colors look a little bit dull, I guess. I don't know, that's, I guess, just my perspective on it. But yeah, this is actually a 39 by 59 inch canvas. And I know the standard is 40 by 60, and I was just talking to my mom about this, and she's like, well, they robbed an inch all the way around with the frame. I'm like, well, that makes sense. Because usually if you went to buy a canvas, it would be 40 by 60. It wouldn't be 39 by 59. But even then, the standard sizes, they kind of rob like a 1/4 inch or so all the way around. Okay, looks like second painting sesh is done. Okay, this is what we're looking at so far. It's 2 layers in, and isn't it so pretty? Okay, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, but I kind of like how everything is stemming from this spot here and then kind of just like blooming out, and then the details don't hit the edges at the top, and then they kind of just skim across right here. I really like that flow. So that's looking like the composition so far. Of course that could change, but I really like how it's looking right now. I wanted it to be primarily teal and lime green and just a touch of pink, purple, you know, some colors that'll complement this cool palette that I'm going for. And I'm pretty satisfied with how it's looking so far. Maybe we'll give it another little touch of orange, but I quite like how it's super colorful. You can basically see all of the colors, but it is primarily cool toned. So, I mean, that's my favorite, and I've been wanting to create a piece like this for a while. And it's also the largest piece that I've ever worked on. So really exciting, just a little bit bigger than my 30 by 48 inch go-to for the rectangle shape landscape style paintings. But yeah, I'm really, really into this piece. What do you think so far? Let me know in the comments. Alrighty, so basically in the last clip I was talking about how the composition is starting to form. I can say, because I know what it looks like at the end, that this is pretty much the composition and it's just flowing across the middle. The rest of this painting process is basically a refinement of the composition and framing it, making sure that it's a little bit more obvious to the naked eye. So like maybe the first glance. And yeah, it's a lot of the same colors. I go in with a lot more detail and filling in some of these shapes, circling them, adding a little bit of dimension. I guess I'm showing you here my brushes, my palettes. Is this what they call B-roll, I think? Maybe. It's not the main footage, but it's supporting. And yeah, this is how I clean my brushes. I dip them in water and I dab them on a little towel. That's how I do it while I'm painting. So basically, to prevent the brushes from sitting in water, which I don't think I've ever done. I think maybe I did it in the very beginning and I noticed how my brushes wouldn't last, and leaving them in the water would actually detach the metal part that holds the bristles, and it, you know, brings together like the wooden or metal handle. So that glue would like undo, and I decided, okay, well, I'm just gonna do a quick clean while I'm actually painting. And so dip it in the water. Sometimes if there's a lot of paint on the brush, I'll do something with that paint, maybe like just get rid of it on another canvas or piece of paper nearby. And then I'll dab it on the towel a little bit, rinse it, just a quick little rinse, and then dabbing it on the towel so that I can continue using it throughout that paint session. And then when I'm done, that's when I give them all a little rinse. But I gotta say, that doesn't always happen. When I get into the whole painting mode, it's easy for me to, just whip out 3-4 paintings. Of course, when it's a large piece like this, it's gonna be maybe 20 minutes to 2 hours, depending, just on this one paint session. And so, of course, it doesn't look that long because I've sped it up, and I do like to edit out a lot of the downtime, just time that I spend staring at the painting, or maybe I spent too much time like mixing paint or whatever. But I just, like to make it so that it's easier to view and it's more interesting, but also long enough that you can paint along. I think 30 minutes is a pretty good painting. And here's a little close-up of mixing paint. Actually, this was because I had just run out of my Lucas Studio white, titanium white paint. And I was mixing some of it with another white paint that I hate. And it's just like way too transparent, and it like dulls my colors. So if I mixed, one of my paints with, one desirable one with an undesirable one, I get kind of a blend that's all right to work with. But yeah, I've been having an issue trying to get some more paint shipped to me. But that is just because I've been trying to avoid a trip to the art store so that I just order it online, because that's just how I like to do things. But yeah, hopefully it gets shipped out to me soon, because it's just when you're an artist and you have your go-to supplies and you have like specific brands, you're just picky about things. It's hard to break out of those, ways, because I'm so used to using a certain textured canvas or paper, and then the paints that I buy and the brushes that I buy. Like, it's been a couple years now throughout my artistic journey that I've been buying the same art supplies over and over again. So there hasn't really been a change with what I've been using. And sometimes, I'll experiment with like a different kind of paper. Maybe it's like a cold press, or something that has a higher pound, gram per pound. I forget what the unit is, but just a different kind of paper, different kind of supply. I notice a difference with my painting, and it's just weird. I can't explain it. It gets me out of my like mojo. I don't know, and not in a good way too. Like, it kind of irritates me that I can't like do what I need to do, And then here's some more B-roll showing you my palette, a gloop of paint. I love this color. It's how I mix periwinkle with some turquoise and some purple. And you can see it right in the middle of the canvas. It's funny. I get into the groove with editing, and I actually find it to be enjoying. And it's not like, I'm watching myself paint and I'm like, wow, what a like great artist, or anything. No, like I'm talking about going through and organizing my videos, attaching the audio, doing these little segments where there's a zoom in, and cropping the image so that you can see a close-up, essentially. It's just fun to put it all together because, you know, that's what makes it interesting, I think. And I've been learning some things with filming, and even though you might not be able to tell because sometimes the picture is not as clear as it should probably be. And yeah, that's just because I like to focus my energy more into the art and the painting itself. Because I could really spend a lot of time trying to figure out this camera stuff, and I mean, I have. And I've learned some things, but it's late. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Yeah. I keep saying, like, in the future, I'm going to have someone to do stuff for me like this, the filming, the editing, because even though I do kind of enjoy it, it takes some major convincing for me to actually sit down and do it, you know? I'm not talking in this painting process video because I'm listening to music and I'm really jamming out. So I'm just gonna do probably like a voiceover and talk about my process. This here is the third layer in, and I'm loving it. It just looks so cool. I think this is probably gonna be my pièce de résistance for the year, if you will. I just feel it, like the line work, the different size shapes, the colors. I didn't want to use any neutrals in this, although I kind of did go in with a little bit of ochre and mixed it with some green to get kind of a little neutral, and then there's kind of a neutral right there that I mixed with green, like a forest green, cad green, chromium green light, there it is. And then, yeah, just going in with lighter values next to the darker values. The darker values make up the composition, and the lighter ones kind of frame around it, giving it that contrast. Yeah, it's just looking so good. I'm really proud of this piece. I don't know if I mentioned this yet. I'm gonna mention it again. This is actually a commercial art painting, the canvas, and I went over it with a layer of gesso because usually I don't prime with gesso. I don't prime at all, but this had a texture, this painting. You can see it. There's some areas where it really stands out. See those lines? You can really see that texture. So, I mean, I like it. It's not like my favorite thing. Maybe it will be in the future, I don't know. But for now, I just wanted to give it as smooth a coat of gesso as I could, so that we could go over it with paint. And here we are. I love this color palette, it's so nice. Love that purple and orange contrast right there. There's a lot of elements of this piece that I love just as is. I might throw in a little bit more of a lighter value somewhere over here. I feel like it's not light enough in that corner. Maybe bring this down a few notches. And I kind of like some of the streaky areas that are a little transparent and you can see the paint underneath. Usually this would bug me right here, the white canvas peeking through, but since I hit it with a really thick layer of gesso, that's gonna be what you're seeing there. So the full thing has been coated underneath. Ooh, look at that lime green right there. So nice. All right, well, yeah, it's almost finished. Okay, here we have what is the last painting session. So this is the home stretch. And I think I just finished it from here. Like, this is it. This was a couple hours, I believe, that I just kind of went for it, which usually I can say for this size painting or something similar to it, the 30 by 48 is what I usually, it's my largest landscape piece or canvas that I go for. And so it's basically, I want to say at least 5 painting sessions. Like, it takes a minute for me to get through it, and it's not even about like finishing it or getting through it. It's just like I get lost in the layers and I find so much enjoyment out of the process. Of course, I have like a method, and you know, it just happens. Like, sometimes it's quicker than other times, but I'm not so much focused on the time than I am focused on like my method. And that includes first covering up the canvas, second adding detail, third carving out the composition, and then fourth framing that, adding details, making sure that my color theory is on point. Sometimes I don't pay too much attention to that, and I pay more attention to the composition because composition is everything. I feel like you could have every color under the sun in your painting or in your artwork, but if you have a good composition, something that is, you know, really easy to form, it's like the part of the painting that draws you in, and it's like what you would call a focal point. If you're painting something that's not abstract, like a bird in a tree, then you're gonna center that bird and the tree. You're not gonna center it. You're gonna put it a little off center so as to create more interest, versus putting it smack dab in the middle is not as interesting. And yeah, it's the same concept with photography. Like, you want your subject to be in the frame, obviously, but you also want things to look interesting. You want to draw the viewer in. And so that's what we're looking at here. I'm lightening some of the values. Which really brings out that purple and the darker teal. But you know, my whole plan with this piece, because there's definitely, if I'm, I guess, organizing this in my head, if I'm categorizing the different steps, I would usually go in with colors. I would start off with colors that maybe don't make up such a concrete color palette, and then later it gets refined. That's a little bit harder to do with a large piece like this, and so my plan for this piece, although it did still remain very intuitive, my plan was to make it mostly teals, blues, purples, pinks, lime green, which I was saying before is my signature color palette. And I just really like how it turned out. It's funny, I'm usually either really happy with it, with a painting, or I'm kind of just like, okay, well, it meets my criteria and I'm satisfied with it. I let these kinds of paintings, basically, I let them slide because, as an artist, you can't create masterpieces all the time. And as much as you want to make every painting great, it doesn't happen. Like, you have to get through the bad art to get to the good art. And it's kind of like trial and error and maybe a little dash of experimentation in there too to keep things interesting. For me, the most interesting thing that I can do is kind of zhuzh up my space and rearrange things, hang up different paintings, bring some down, just give myself a different environment. And that really does wonders for me and my creativity. So yeah, circling things in, darkening this white a little bit, or going in with a second layer so that it's more opaque. And we're going in with the details, Posca pens. So something has kind of happened with me and my repertoire, basically. Usually this last portion of my painting process, I'm going in with Posca pens first, then I'm going in with Caran d'Ache Aquarelle Watercolor 2 crayons, and then I'll use some Stabilo woodies. But I kind of took out the crayons and the woodies for the sake of not having to use workable fixative, because I don't know, I'm kind of sensitive to smells and just that aerosol spray type thing. I can't do it. And I've basically downsized from where I lived with my parents in Tucson to Utah. And so I just have my balcony and it's really cramped, especially for a large piece like this. I was like, I'm definitely not going to be using the crayons. I should just say water-soluble mark-making tools, because that's what they are. And so basically I have to spray the painting with workable fixative before I varnish it if I'm using water-soluble art supplies. But with these Posca pens, they kind of melt a little bit too, to be honest. I'll still be using workable fixative before I varnish this. But it's not like 2 or 3 layers like with the crayons that I have to go in with before varnishing. So I'm eliminating some of that spray, the use of those sprays that I hate. So yeah, it's been a little easier too. I can create some of the same effects with the Posca pens, and I don't have little pieces of wax everywhere staining, my clothes, my hands, other artworks. Of course, I could very easily go back to using these, but for now, I've just been enjoying the sole use of my Posca pens. And it looks like I have run out, and I'm looking for the one that has ink or paint. And it's nice because it's paint in a pen or a marker, whatever you want to call it. And once you apply it on the canvas, you can manipulate it a little bit with your brushes. You could even wet your brush and create a little wash, which is what I like to do with the crayons. But I can still create the same effect with the Posca pens, and as long as I can do that, I'm happy. There's my pickle jar that I use for my water. And then now it's time to sign the painting, which means it is finished. Kind of an awkward way to sign the painting. But yeah, it's finished. I love how it looks. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with it. I love the details too. Like, this is one of the things that I personally love to do, and so I love to see it, and I love my art. What can I say? I love my art. Otherwise, I wouldn't create this way. John's thumbs up of approval. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this. This is called the Santa Monica Pier, and you can find my paintings available on my website at www.emiliabachelierart.com. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!